friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to jump on here and just make some goodies together. I ran out of bread, so I want to make some homemade bread, and I just love the homemade bread. It's so much better than store-bought. If you've ever made homemade bread before, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to make a couple loaves of my Italian bread, and I also want to try some breadsticks. I've never made breadsticks at home before, homemade, outside of a, frozen or something like that. So I'm going to try making them homemade also. And I want to prep some lasagna for tomorrow for some friends of mine. So I have some pre-cooked meat that I already had in the freezer, which is nice. If you make up, a large amount of hamburger or sausage for another meal and you have extra, don't throw that away. Always put that in the freezer because you can use it later on for another meal. So that's what I did. I have a pound of Italian sausage that's been cooked up and 2 pounds of hamburger that I'm going to make some sauce with for my lasagna and put that together and then put that in the refrigerator. So that's done, and all I got to do in the morning is cook. So here we go. So I'm going to get my Italian bread going. I got all my ingredients out here ready to go. I've got my ½ cup of olive oil and 3½ tablespoons of sugar and my tablespoon of salt, and then my yeast. I have 3 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, that I'm going to put in my stand mixer. And let me put this over here. I don't want to put it in the dishwater because I might need it for flour again. So there's my flour, 3 cups to start with, and my sugar, my salt. Well, it'll come out of the bowl. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just put my yeast in there. And my ½ cup of olive oil. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there as well. And then my ingredients in there, and 2½ cups of hot water. So I'm going to go ahead and just pour that all in there and get this mixing. You just start with 3 cups of water, 3 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, and I'm going to get that mixing well, and it smells good. It smells like fresh bread. Like I said, this one's going to be a really sticky bread, the dough. All right, let's see here how it looks. It's still pretty tacky the way I want it. That's okay. Now with the instant dry yeast, it says to just, instead of having a first full rise, which, normally what I do with the active dry yeast, at this point in the bowl where I would first mix it all together, I would just cover it and let it set and rise for about an hour till it doubled in size. But the instant yeast says to let it just rest for 10 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let this just rest for 10 minutes and then go ahead and turn it out on my floured surface, and then roll it out and shape it into my loaves. And then I'll let that rise for about 40 minutes. Now my breadstick recipe, 3 cups of flour, and I've got my yeast here, and my sugar, and my salt. It's kind of stuck to the bottom there. There's that. And then I'm going to melt my butter down. There's our butter, and it's hot. Let me get my water. 1 cup of warm water. Alrighty, and that's about 110 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and mix that, and then I'll add my butter here. Because it's still pretty hot and I don't want to kill the yeast. Okay, let's go ahead and pour that in there. Pretty hot. Every little drop. And then for the topping on this, it calls for garlic powder, oregano, and a little bit of salt. But I have an already pre-made, it's like a pizza topping. So I'm going to mix that with butter, and I'll just brush on the tops of it. Looks pretty good. Let's see. Yep, looks pretty good. Okay. Get that all off of there. That one I'm going to let set for like maybe 10 minutes, and then we're going to roll that out too here. Okay, my Italian loaf has sat and rested for a few. So I'm going to roll this out and shape it onto my little cookie sheets with parchment, and then let that set for about 45 minutes and see if it rises the way it did with the active dry yeast. But it looks like it's starting to rise actually, so looks good. Let me turn you here so you can see. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, let's get that out of there. Okay. Now usually when I do this, it's usually light and fluffy, so we'll see how it does. Because usually with the active dry yeast, it'll have a first rise for about an hour, and it's like real puffy and just soft and fluffy. So hopefully after it sets and rises in the loaf form, it'll be the way I like it. If not, I'm going to be sad. Okay, let me make 2 out of this. Now, I think I've told you before in another video, you can take this and cut it into pieces and then shape it into individual mini loaves. And it does really well for stromboli bread or mini subs. It's great for that. Let's make this round. Let's roll this up on itself. And it might be a little bit bigger for that, but we're going to fold those ends under. Let's see if that don't work. It feels a little more dense than what I'm used to, but like I said, it may rise up and be just fine. So there's that. I'm going to cut that. And I just take a little sharp serrated knife and just put little diagonal slits into that. There we go. And that's okay. And let's lay it seam side down and fold under the ends. Yeah, that did okay. So I'll probably let that rise for about an hour. We'll make our little slits in it. cup down here. Well, some of it. And we're going to knead that out a little bit. Alrighty. I'm just going to knead that a little bit to get it nice and soft. Now this dough feels a little bit lighter than my bread dough, but it's just different dough. Kind of almost the same ingredients, except for the butter in the breadsticks versus olive oil in my white bread there. But we love butter. That looks good. Okay. Looks pretty good. I'll roll that out and cut it into sticks. Let's see here. Like I said, I've never made breadsticks before, so this is a first. And these may be itty bitty skinny ones like they make at some of the Pizza Kings here in Indiana. And those are good too, so. Yeah, this is definitely going to make more than 12, but like I said, they look like this. I thought you were supposed to roll them to make them look like a round breadstick, but I guess not. Okay. Let's put these on here. And we're going to let them rise for a little bit. You definitely ain't no Fazoli's breadsticks or Olive Garden. Homemade with love. I don't know if you can twist that, dude. I don't think it's going to twist anyways. I think it's going to go flat. Yeah, good enough. I don't care. I'll have to get a bigger pan. Now I'm going to put together my sauce for my lasagna. And I have maybe a pound and a half of ground beef that was fried up and put in the freezer for later use. So I'm going to put my pre-cooked ground beef in my pan, my large saucepan. And I also have a pound of Italian sausage that I'm going to go ahead and put in here also. Normally I'll just use a pound of regular sausage, Italian sausage, whatever I have on hand. That's what I usually use. So there's my meat. It's pre-cooked already. See? Now these are not homemade sauce, but it's homemade from my house. But I use pre-made sauces. That's a thing to be mastered yet, making homemade spaghetti sauce one of these days. But one of my favorite brands is Prego. I love Prego. So I'm going to pour that in there. And I'm going to turn it upside down so the rest can get out of there. And a little bit of Renati. It's going to be a pretty big pan of sauce. So I'm going to make pretty big size lasagna. I got my eggs out there for my filling. I use either ricotta or cottage cheese. Today I'm using cottage cheese and a little bit of Parmesan and mozzarella. And I'm making a mess there, but that's okay. I don't know any good cook that doesn't make a mess in their kitchen, so I'm going to heat that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prep this, put it together. I got the no-boil noodles, so I'm just going to layer this up and cover it with foil, put it in the fridge, and then tomorrow I'm going to bake it. So there's my sauce, and it is cooking. I mean, it's all already pre-made. You just got to heat it up. But I'm going to let it simmer for a few because I have the Italian sausage in there and the hamburger that was already pre-seasoned, and I want those spices to leach out into the spaghetti sauce. So I'm going to let that set and simmer. My bread that I have in the oven. Those are enormous. We're going to come over here and assemble my filling with my cottage cheese. And I've got my eggs and my no-boil lasagna noodles, which work great, and my cheese. So I'll show you what I do with that. Okay. Now I've got a large thing of just regular cottage cheese, this small curd. I'm just going to pour that in my bowl. Well, maybe. Me. Get a spatula. I have my handy dandy beaters around from my old hand mixers. Okay, let me get all that out. I'm not super duper organized today, so you just had to forgive me for the scatteredness of this video, but that's okay. I'm just a home cook. Not a professional. Never claimed to be a professional, that's for sure. Alrighty, I'll put 2 eggs. There's that one. And that one. And this, I do not measure anything precisely. It's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that for my filling. So I'm going to add Parmesan to that. And that's probably enough. And a little bit of mozzarella. Not much, because I'm going to layer it in there with it. Just a little bit. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, how about some oregano? But I don't think this one's open. Nope, that one's not open. Let me get one. Well, you know what? I have Italian seasoning. It's got that in it. So we'll dump a little bit of that in there. Don't want to overdo the seasonings, but we want it to taste good. And I think that's probably good. A little bit of Italian seasoning. And let me get some salt and pepper. And a little bit of Miss Dash garlic, because it has a little bit of extra herbs in it. So I don't want to overkill it, but that is quite a lot. A little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Alrighty, good enough. Let me get my sauce over here. Don't need that. Okay, I'll get my sauce. I'm just going to mix that up. I got my loaves of bread in the oven cooking. I'm going to turn them around here in a minute because my oven does not heat evenly, which makes me crazy, but oh well, it is what it is. At least we got an oven, thankful for that. And I'm just going to take that and mix that really well. I said you can use ricotta also, but I have not found a good brand that I like. I used one a while back, and it was kind of grainy, so if you all know a good brand of ricotta, definitely leave it in the comments below, and I'm willing to try any of them, but other than that, I'll just use the cottage cheese for now until I come across a good one. Okay, and that looks pretty good. which you can take that actually and put in a food processor to make it real fine, but that's a lot of effort for today, so I'm not going to do that. This does just fine, really. Okay, now let me get a ladle for this. Okay, I'm just going to put a little bit on the bottom of my pan to keep it from sticking and to give it the liquid on the bottom. It smells so good already. Alrighty, there we go. This is the greatest thing I've ever come across. I used to boil my noodles, which I still do from time to time, but I found these to cut my prep time in half. And I can make it up now and put it in the fridge and let it stay overnight and then bake it in the morning. So it's a win-win situation there. Let's see if we can break that to finish that. Alrighty. And it's crazy the amount of dishes we dirty making anything in the kitchen, especially if you're doing multiple projects. You know what I'm talking about. You go through a ton of dishes. It is what it is, I guess. Smells so good. Almost wish I was making it for supper. Oops. Put that on there, get that little burn on there. Yum. Alrighty, good enough. Let me peek in on my bread. Oh yeah. Almost done. I'll save that to break up with some of the other ones. Let's turn it this way. I don't know why I turn it differently each time. It's just one of those things. Good enough. I wouldn't mind trying to make my own, like, from scratch lasagna one of these days. Like the homemade noodles. I love watching Becky over on Acre Homestead. If you haven't watched her channel or subscribed to her channel, you really ought to. She is an amazing, amazing homemaker, and she will do a year's worth of pasta in one day, and it looks incredible how she, does it, and the pasta looks amazing. So that's definitely one of my aspirations. But if you've not checked out Acre Homestead, I challenge you to do that. You'll really enjoy it. She's a delight to watch, and I've learned a ton from her, a ton. Well, that's as good as it's going to get because I don't have another one to break up along the sides, but that's okay. It'll soak up and they'll swell up from the liquid and be just fine. Also, left out of that, I may be able to make a pan of spaghetti tonight myself and have some of my fresh homemade bread to go with it. Fresh homemade bread makes the best garlic bread. Oh my goodness. If you've not tried it, you really got it. It's so good. Okay. I don't want to drown it, but like I said, that pasta soaks up a lot of liquid. Okay. Now, I'm just going to top that with my cheese and cover it up and put it in the fridge, and it'll be ready to go. Let's put a little bit of Parmesan with that. And there you go. And like I said, I'll just put that in the fridge, and then tomorrow all I gotta do is toss it in the oven and bake it. Well, there's the loaves of bread that I used the instant dry yeast on. I was afraid they wouldn't turn out the way my others had with the active dry yeast that you proof, but they did just great, actually. And there's our lasagna. It looks amazing and tastes just as good as it looks.